Hey everyone, it's Cassie with LDRS Creative, and today we are going to be making a peekaboo background using this plaid stencil from LDRS Creative. It's a nice plastic stencil, great for a lot of different techniques. We're also going to be using this brand new stamp set called Just Breezing By. It is a clear stamp set with a bunch of different stamps on it. You can find links in the description below. Let's get started. When working with stencils, I do like to protect my surface. So I'm going to put some paper down. I'm going to put my card down, and I will lay the stencil on top. And now I'm going to tape it down just so that it doesn't move around while we're working. So I'm going to put a little bit of low tack tape on the sides and along the bottom, as well as the top. And this will just hold it all in place. I'm going to be using LDRS Creative's hybrid inks in La La Lavender and Bally Blue for this. I'm also going to be using some cheap makeup wedges to apply the ink. I'm going to be starting with the purple, and I'm just rubbing the makeup wedge across the top of the ink pad to pick up some ink, and then I'm rubbing it through the stencil. Then I'm going to go with the blue and do the same thing, making sure to overlap the two inks so that they'll blend together nicely. And I'll work back and forth between the two until I'm happy. I just need to band across that bottom part, so that's all I'm doing. And when you're happy with it, you can pull it out from under your stencil. Then you can clean your stencil by running a baby wipe over top of it just to clear off the ink. Now for our stamping, we're going to get another piece of cardstock, the same size as your card front. Mine is an A2 card, so it's a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And we'll pull out our girl stamp. So you pull it off that carrier sheet and figure out where you want it. I'm putting mine down in that lower corner. You want to make sure that wherever you stamp it, you're stamping it over where your stenciled band was on your first paper. And I'm using the LDRS Creative Raven Hybrid ink for this. It's a nice dark black ink that's good with alcohol markers, colored pencils, and watercolors, so it's good ink to have. Now on to some coloring. As I started working on her skin, I noticed it was smearing a little bit, and that meant the ink wasn't dry, so I did heat set it a little bit. You normally don't need to heat set the hybrid inks, but they do take a little bit of time to dry, so if you are in a hurry or you're not patient, like I am not patient, then you can go ahead and heat set it before you start coloring. Now that it's colored, it's time to create the window for the stencil to peek through. To do that, we're going to place our card on a piece of glass so that we don't cut through our table. And I'm just going to figure out where I want my band. I'm using a piece of plastic to be a straight edge for me, and I'm lightly drawing with a pencil a top and a bottom edge to my peekaboo window. This will tell me where I need to cut. Then you can either use a ruler and a craft knife or a pair of scissors to cut along that line. Be sure you're skipping all the spaces where the stamp is. I also like to leave a little bit of a border between my stamp line and where I'm cutting. So you want to cut along your top and your bottom line, and then you will need to fussy cut along your stamped image. We don't want this to become two separate pieces of cardstock. We want it to stay in one piece, and we're just cutting out whatever falls in that window. And because these two butterflies aren't actually attached to the girl, we are going to cut them out completely, and we will add them back in later. So I'm just using my scissors and my craft knife to get all the little nooks and crannies in there. And doing a quick fussy cutting around the butterflies. Now that we have our window cut, we can add our sentiment. So I'm going to place it back in my stamp positioner, and I'm going to choose my sentiment and figure out where I want it. So I'm going to line it up right along the top edge of that window, and I'll stamp that again using the Raven ink. And now we're ready to assemble. So I have a top folding A2 card, and I'm going to go ahead and add some adhesive to the back of our stenciled panel, and I will glue that flat to the front of the card. Now when we lay our window piece on top, you can see that the stencil shows through that window. To create a little dimension and to have some separation between the background and our foreground, we're going to add some foam tape behind our window piece. We also need to add some foam tape behind our butterflies. It's then ready to be attached to our card base. So just line it up right over top of your background panel and smooth it down. Then we can put our butterflies where we want them. And that is how you can use your stencils to create a fun peekaboo background for your stamped images. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure that you are subscribed to this channel so you don't miss any future videos. As I said earlier, there are links